You are severed from Christ. You who would be justified by the law, you have fallen away from grace.
Hello, and welcome to the show, Colourful Conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark. This week we ask, who is more to blame, David Beckham or Danny Baker? Well, it seems that two major celebrities in the news recently have fallen from grace. Or have they? If we start with Danny Baker. Now, he has expressed deep regret at the Twitter storm that led to his sacking from the BBC. Essentially, he put out a tweet that he says was a foolish error. The tweet was removed, showing an image of a couple holding hands with a chimpanzee dressed in clothes with the caption, "Royal baby leaves hospital." Many people took to Twitter and chastised Danny Baker for this apparent joke, and has seen to be quite offensive. And this has caused great furore in the media. But quite conversely, David Beckham has also been in the media, but seems to have had less focus. Now, David Beckham has been given a 6-month driving ban for using his mobile phone whilst behind the wheel. Now, whilst he regrets this action, he's been given a fine of £750, ordered to pay £100 in prosecution costs, and a £75 surcharge. Seems very small for something rather serious. And yet, David Beckham, whilst still in the news, doesn't seem to have grabbed the headlines as much as Danny Baker. Now, I'm going to give you my opinion here. Isn't it extraordinary how some celebrities are perhaps chastised or criticised in the media? And we're going to debate this. First, some of their actions. My view in this particular case is David Beckham is certainly somebody who is more to blame. The issue of driving with a mobile phone is extremely serious, and somebody who is meant to be a role model should definitely be called to account. And in fact, I would go as far as to say the following. He is disconnected. A mobile phone has its attraction, but not when it leads you to distraction. If when driving a vehicle it delays reaction, that's when the law must take strong legal action. So, Clergyman Pete, which do you think, if any, of the celebrities are more to blame, David Beckham or Danny Baker?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because what you have in these two actions, one, a joke on Twitter that's widely seen, and then the actions of David Beckham, which could have impacted at least one person very extremely, if he were to run them over or something. Then you have something very deep, dark, horrible that can happen to someone, one or two people, or a slight bit of offence that can happen to a lot of people with the Danny Baker tweet. So it's difficult really to assess which is worse. Do you see what I mean? In the one, you can have a little offence but done to loads of people, or a big offence done to one or two people. I would come down on the side of David Beckham being more to blame here, because killing someone is just trumps everything. I think that's the worst thing that you could do, you see. So I think it's far worse than people being offended. Partly because I do have this idea that, you can decide to be offended or not. Whereas as a pedestrian walking across the street who gets run over by a celebrity's black limousine because they were driving it whilst phoning, well, you didn't have any. You were just crossing the road. There's nothing you can do about that. So I see this as a far more important thing. I mean, why isn't there more in the news about this? What David Beckham was doing?
I completely agree, and it is extraordinary that we know that the media decides to focus on the sensational.
Yes.
But clearly at the moment, the media seem to be focused on the Danny Baker story, and yet some people will say often when there is a breaking news, hey, let's bury the news. It's often used as a term when you get a bad story out because it's usurped by something else. But I think I come back to the point that the judge, actually the district judge, Catherine Moore, said that she acknowledged that the slow pace at which the traffic was moving when David Beckham was driving was taken into account, but the fact that it is still no excuse under the law. Now, we don't need to highlight too many statistics about what's happened recently, but far too many people have been victims of drivers who've been completely distracted. Not only have they been injured, but they have lost their lives. This is devastating, not only for the individual, but of course, obviously, families, friends, colleagues, and many others. Society really needs to put a little bit more focus on this. And it's extraordinary, isn't it, that if you walk down the street today and mention the name of David Beckham, probably most people would have forgotten this piece of news. And yet, if you walk down the street and talk about Danny Baker, everyone's going to be talking about this rather ill-chosen tweet.
Yes.
And isn't it extraordinary where really the thing that we are trying to do, and for many, many years, and I can tell you this from a business point of view, manufacturers, businesses, society has been trying desperately to get people to change behavior when it comes to use of mobile phones. Certainly when they became very popular at the end of the last century going into this one, there were lots of techniques and mechanisms that people were using. They were looking at mobile phone cradles to get people to put them in a cradle before they actually got into their vehicle, or better still, and quite honestly is the obvious advice, which is switch it off. Switch off your mobile phone, concentrate on your driving, and everyone can get about their business in a safe way. And yet I know that this is ironic, that it just takes a moment of bad decision, isn't it?
Yes.
A bad decision on David Beckham's part, but you can argue also a bad decision on Danny Baker's part. A tweet can happen in a moment. And he clearly offended a lot of people. It's definitely been interpreted as a racist joke, let alone one that some people just think was rather flippant and not amusing at all.
I think we can take a look at these two incidents as we're exploring who is most to blame, and decide really from the incident itself how intentional they were. Now, if we take David Beckham, he was described as holding a phone down at knee level. Now, that's not a comfortable way to use it. So he can only really been doing that so that people couldn't see what he was doing.
Correct.
So this was furtive behaviour. He obviously knew that it was against the law, and that he didn't want to be seen doing it. So we can say that he was taking a furtive look. I understand, he may have had an urgent message, that sort of thing. So you could say the one thing you could say in his defence was, well, he probably done it lots of times and no harm had come of it. So, that's in his defence. But he was deliberately doing it, and you can tell because he was hiding it. Now, Danny Baker, was he deliberately being offensive? Obviously, he deliberately wrote the tweet, but was he deliberately being offensive? Now, I've got Danny Baker's Twitter feed in front of me. Yes, I follow him on Twitter, but I didn't see this tweet when it first came up. I don't often check my Twitter feed because it's full of racist comments, so I don't need. So I looked at it. Now, if he's deleted the original tweet, but luckily for us, someone's put it back up again. And it's a picture, as you were describing, of a couple leaving a building. You don't know if it's a hospital. And the between them is a chimpanzee in an overcoat, a bowler hat with a silver-tipped cane. And the comment, the tweet is, "Royal baby leaves hospital." Now, the part of the defence from Danny Baker, he's been quite verbose, considering he's doing tweets, which, you are limited in the number of characters you can use. He's done over several tweets. He's tried to explain it, or explain it away. But one of the things, what he said he was doing was satirising babies born into privilege. So he was making it look rich. It was a baby in a bowler hat with a silver-tipped cane. Now he supports that by saying, well, I just looked up funny images and was looking through, and I may have come across a baby in a crown and put that up. And so if it had been, if that one had come up first, I would have gone with that. So he didn't realise, he said, a few things. One, he didn't realise whose baby it was, because he just vaguely knew there was a royal baby. And so he didn't factor in the black heritage of the baby, that his mother, who, doesn't look black, let's be honest, but she is of mixed race, isn't she? Is she? Am I right in saying that? Certainly she doesn't look black to me, but I think her mother's black, I think I'm right in saying. So the baby is going to be of mixed heritage. So in making the comment that he was a gorilla, well, I still, personally, I don't even then make the connection. So you've got a woman who doesn't look black, and any sort of blackness about her appearance, she tries to hide with the way that she dresses, and then you have the baby being born. To make that connection, I think you've got to make a leap to make the connection. So I would say,
I'm going to have to do.
I would say that
I know that we tend to align, but I'm going to disagree on this point. And the reason that I'm going to disagree with this point is, and Danny Baker, certainly somebody who's part of the media would know this, is that this, we'll say, race subject has been openly discussed. Even when Harry met Meghan, the topic of race came up quite considerably. And in his quote, as part of his media interviews, he said, minutes later, after he just actually posted it, I was alerted by followers that this royal baby was, of course, mixed race, and waves of panic and revulsion washed over me. What had I done? And he'd realized that, in his words, I needed no lessons on the centuries of slurs equating simians and people of color, racism at its basest. The fact is that he should have known that actually this was going to cause offence. He should have at least realised that. Certainly somebody in his position, because whether you personally were aware of it, that's one point, but I was certainly aware of that it would have been deemed to be offensive. So I think he should have known that, and even if he didn't, it was a bad choice.
Yes,
clearly from revulsion, the reaction, it's caused offence.
I guess that's a fair point.
It comes back to, what are we putting the focus on this, or should we actually be looking at what David Beckham is doing? Because actually, ironically, people are talking more about the tweets than what David Beckham did. And as a role model, he's certainly, in my opinion, gone down in my estimation.
Yes. No, the point was making, looking at how guilty he was, how intentional he was, as to whether he can be said to be more to blame. Now, I was reading it that he wasn't intentional. Now, if he's fully aware, he could well as you say, he's a media figure. It may well be that he is fully aware, and he deliberately put up an offensive tweet, and then obviously he wanted to apologise because he didn't want people chasing after him. But he puts it up in order that to make it such that everyone's talking about him, and
Correct.
So go and see him in his current live tour, which I believe is just about to start.
Correct.
Yes,
exactly.
So maybe he is. I mean, now and then if you take that the other way, David Beckham. Incidentally, you notice they both have the same initials, so we're right to compare them here.
Exactly.
David Beckham, he, I would say, he was furtive, trying to hide it. Now he obviously wasn't deliberately doing it in order to hurt people. We say the hurt is greater. Danny Baker could have put up that tweet in order to offend people, to get notoriety. David Baker didn't do it in order to run over someone. He was doing it because he was made a stupid decision. So in that way, you could say he was stupid, but actually Danny Baker is more to blame.
Well, I'm going to slightly disagree with you, because I'm going to bring up another fact about David Beckham. So in September of last year, Beckham was accused of shirking his responsibility as a role model when he avoided prosecution on a speeding charge because of a technicality. Mm-hmm. Now, he apparently drove a lone Bentley at 59 miles per hour in a 40-mile-an-hour zone in West London. And that basically was yet another driving offence. So he has a track record, shall we say, of perhaps not being responsible behind the wheel. Now, I know that the mobile phone is one subject, and that in itself is deplorable, but it's not as though that as a role model, and this is the point that is being made by many people in the media as well as people in law are saying he's not acting as a role model because every time he gets into his vehicle, he seems to flout the law.
Yes,
he doesn't seem to care.
Now, the verse I quoted right at the start of this episode, "You have fallen away from grace," which is from Galatians. It's Galatians 5, verse 4 from the Bible. Now, the meaning of fallen from grace is different from how it's commonly used. We say these two celebrities maybe have fallen from grace because they were seen to be in a great position where they were admired, and now they've fallen away from it. They had a career, now they've lost it, that sort of thing. Now, of course, that hasn't happened to either of them, that they've completely lost their career. Danny Baker simply lost a particular job that he had.
That's right.
His career will continue, I'm sure, but you're falling away from grace means you've fallen away from relying on the generosity and forgiveness of God. That's what it means here. Instead, you were trying to be justified by the law. And so you were trusting in obeying certain rules and laws in order to be seen as being right. Whereas really, we're all fallen short of the glory of God, as it put in the Bible. We're all flawed individuals. We need to be forgiven by God and by each other. And I think that meaning of you've fallen away from grace can apply here, because both the DBs, David Beckham and Danny Baker, need to be forgiven. But in order to be forgiven, they need to repent. They need to be sorry for what they've done. Danny Baker makes a good case on his Twitter feed alone that he's very, very sorry. I mean,
oh yes,
we could say we don't believe him, but from what he said, if he is as sorry as he emotes on his Twitter feed, he's very, very sorry. I mean, he's probably the sorriest person I've ever come across. David Beckham, I tried to find his response, but I think what he was doing was trying to be justified by the law, in that he waited for the court case and let that handle it. So it may be.
What's worse is that he has a guy who's a chap called Nick Freeman, notorious, known as Mr. Loophole.
Yes, yeah.
Who is successfully fought to prevent action being taken because of a speeding notice arrived one day late. So actually, ironically, in that particular case, David Beckham turned to Mr. Loophole just simply to get him off.
Yes, I mean,
he wasn't sorry at all.
No. I mean, the only comment that I have on it now, if one of our listeners knows of another one, please contact us. Go over to the site wherever you're listening to it and leave a comment. We'll pick it up. The only comment that I have from David Beckham is this: that he had no recollection of the day in question or this particular incident. He doesn't even remember it. So he's certainly not showing any contrition. The question, I mean, a separate question could be, did he do it? But I mean, we're assuming that it actually happened here. Seeing as
we know it happened is, ironically, members of the public, and so of him doing it. So
members of the public saw him doing it.
On record.
Members of the public saw him doing it. Yeah, fair enough. But I mean, he has no recollection of it happening. That's his defence. So his defence is under the law. Danny Baker's is, yes, I did it. I'm really, 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 really sorry. So we have two different responses. They're different offences. So what is our conclusion? I guess it's where we started. Certainly for me, it's where we started. David Beckham is more to blame. He's doing something that's more dangerous. It's to less people, but it's more dangerous. Right. If he keeps doing it, it could be to a lot of people. And because he's unrepentant, I'm suspicious that he'll do it again. Danny Baker, even if he originally did it on purpose, the big response, the vituperative response, has left him grovelling in sorrow for what he's done. I think he won't do it again.
Yes. Well, I have a slightly different tack on this, which is I have a horrible feeling that both will be guilty of doing it again.
Yeah, that's possible.
Sometime in the future.
It's possible. It's the read on whether Danny Baker did it. Not only did it on purpose, but he's actually lying about the sorrow, which is possible. Who knows? Yeah.
Well, listeners, what do you think? I mean, who do you think is more to blame? Maybe you've got a particular view. Do you believe that it's David Beckham, or do you think that it's Danny Baker? Well, we'd love to hear your views. Well, why not log on to markandpete.com and let us know your thoughts? Well, I know this is a controversial subject, but it's certainly one that's important. People, on the one hand, do certainly see that driving a vehicle with a mobile phone in hand is extremely serious. But do you believe that a false tweet, or maybe a bad tweet at the wrong moment, is more serious? Let's find out. We'd love to hear from you. So join us again next time for more colourful conversations with Clergyman Pete and Businessman Mark.